Ladies and gentlemen, chess is a difficult game. And one of the most disrespectful things that you can do in a game of chess is before starting it, offer your opponent odds. Say, I'll start the game with a knight less. I'll remove my rook. I'll remove my queen, and I'll still be able to beat you in a game. By the way, if you'd like to play against kids, that's a pretty good way to play. It's not too disrespectful. Now, computers have been better than humans for like 30 years, but they haven't been able to give us odds consistently, right? Surely, despite how good a computer is, it can't start the game with a knight less or a bishop less or even a queen less at the beginning of the game and still win. Yes, it can. And in this video, I'm going to show you how a bot started a game without a queen and managed to defeat a grandmaster 5 times in a row. Folks, we're cooked. We are absolutely fried, battered. It's done. The grandmaster in question is a little bit older as far as grandmasters go. Like right now, grandmasters are teenagers and 20-year-olds, and this grandmaster is, I believe, in his 40s, if not close to 50, from Slovakia. And this was a few of the games that they played, and then he played a little bit more and ultimately got a score of like 19-13, something a little bit closer. But the first 5 games started, and this is how they went. Leela is one of the most powerful neural networks in the world. Leela is customizable. You can play it, it can play like a 1200, 1800, 2000, or it can literally start like this. Now, let me know in the comments if you want me to play it with queen odds. All right. Yeah, let's get into it. So the first move gets a double question mark because the evaluation plummets down. So game review thinks that the first move is a mistake. And we're going to look at 5 different games. All right. Now, these are blitz games. These are speed games. That's important to keep in mind. So the time was not unlimited. That's why mistakes do happen. Okay, knight to f6. All right. Knight c3. And in the first game, Leela took the center. But the funny thing is, like, Leela has no queen. And it's just absolutely incredible how it manages to stabilize the game and keep a pace of the game that doesn't allow the opponent to create any sort of problems. So the bishop goes to g5. Black plays h6 because the truth is, if you start trading pieces, you're gonna lose very quickly. So bishop goes back to f4, and now c5. Trying to open up the position, open up the bishop, open up the queen, because black has a queen. White does not. Pawn takes c5, and now again you're up a queen, so you can just take on c5. But okay, queen a5 is very tricky. Trying to target this pawn, trying to pin. Threatened to play knight takes e4. Very nice move. White castles and queen takes e5. Now, black is already very close to being totally winning. Totally winning. Because, black is just going to, like, take the knight, attack the king. Leela plays e5. If I was playing black here, I would probably play knight g4. Just try to attack the pawn on f2. Just try to win as many pieces from the bot as possible. Black plays d takes e5. And the bishop doesn't even take. White doesn't take on e5 because white doesn't want to get into a situation where their pieces are under attack. So Leela tries to keep the pieces back. Black goes here. And now Leela plays this move, knight d2. Castles. Knight b3. And here's something pretty wild happens. Black plays queen b4, which is a pretty natural move because you want to just keep the queen. And next, you're going to bring the pawns, you're going to bring the knight, you're going to bring the bishop and the rook and so on. The move e5 by white was so brilliant because what it did is it disconnected the bishop from participating in the game. And right now we get h3. h3 is so sneaky. h3 just looks like a move designed to prevent the bishop and the knight from going to the g4 square because then you could take the bishop or the rook. h3 is so sneaky, though. You know what the point of h3 is? And black misses it. Like I said, it's a speed game. If they had unlimited time, of course, black would have seen this. But you look at this position, you start going, wait, I'm actually a little bit uncomfortable here. Knight c6, a3. Is the white queen trapped? Now, the black queen, not the white queen. If queen h4, g3, queen h5, bishop e2, queen f5, g4, queen e6, knight c5. The move h3 from the computer prepared the sequence a3, g3, bishop e2, followed by g4 and knight c5. The move h3 prepared 7 moves into the future. Now, Black didn't see all of that. Black just thought the queen was trapped, so Black gives it up for the knight. Now, Black is still completely winning, but if you could barely accomplish all of that with an extra queen, what do you think is going to happen when you don't have the queen anymore? Well, Black goes here, right? And Black develops. Now, Black is still winning by a full knight, and White's pawn structure not particularly good. Bishop b7 is threatened, rook b8 is played, and Leela doing a very nice job here, just defending against the Black moves. Rook e1, e4, sacrificing a pawn to open up the bishop, and plant the knight here. Look at the move. Rook d5 is ludicrous. Rook d5, the only move in the position that actually tricks Black, and taking it is bad. Taking it is bad. Even though it's not clear at all, the point is Black's pieces are now a little bit more restricted, and you help the White pawn structure. Now we have this trade, and the pawns start moving forward. And before you know it, Leela has, despite being a rook down now, has 2 advanced pawns. Black is still doing well. It's rook and bishop versus rook, rook, and knight. However, slowly, methodically, and patiently, Leela is going to make it into an endgame where the pawns are still there, and the advantage for White is gone. It's gone. How is that even possible? And now it's equal, but you're never going to save this. I mean, you're in an equal rook endgame. You couldn't beat it up a queen. What makes you think you're going to hold a draw? And Black does their best for a little while, but then blunders. And now after c6 and c7, the game is just over, because even though you are winning the rook, I am promoting and I am making a queen. I mean, that is just, that is like, from moves like rook d5, I don't even know what to say. Now, there were some other very funny games, right? And again, the point of this is not to rub it in. It is just to show that these computers are ridiculous. Ridiculous. And since then, like I said, the human did win a good amount of the games, probably adapting to the style. Maybe they played this a little bit late at night. Watch this game, okay? So in this game, you know, Leela gets into a fight very early. If I'm playing Black here, I take with the bishop. Yep. Knight c3, knight f6, and watch this, okay? Knight takes, knight takes. Now, this bishop, all you gotta do is give the computer a little bit of a target, and it is going to strangle you with this weakness. Bishop goes to g2. In this game, Leela took the approach of just playing it safe, played kind of on the third rank. It didn't really intertwine with the opponent. You can castle in either direction. In this game, Black goes for a fight very quickly, probably tilted from the previous game, right? And now, I mean, the queen is swarming, so the king goes over here. I would actually be a little bit scared in this position as Black. I mean, I'm up a queen, but you know, you are on the verge of getting a little bit of a shish kebab here with the bishop on the b2 square. Maybe rook e1, rook f1, pressure on the knights, then pressure with the bishop. I can see a way that, you know, you panic. The bishop goes to g4, the rook goes to f1. I can't even begin to understand that move, and why not this one? But rook f1, I guess you had to prevent something from going to the f3 square. That's a nice move, because if knight takes f6, if rook takes f6, there's queen takes d2, knight d5. Now, knight d5 is a defensive move. It looks like an offensive move, right? It looks like an offensive move, but it's a defensive move. You were defending against this, and now Black sacrifices the queen for the bishop. And in the previous game, when Black sacrificed on c3, right, in this position, Black was only up a bishop. Or sorry, Black was only up a knight. In this position, Black is up 2 knights. So you have a position with an even bigger advantage than last time. And 6 pawns each. This has to be easy. You just come back. You don't do anything crazy. Just don't do anything crazy. Slowly trade the rooks. King g7. Okay, fine. Knight f6 back. I mean, you can't do anything wrong here, right? Rook e4. All right. Bishop f5. I mean, the rook is... All right, you got to defend something. Play rook a4. Don't let, you know, White is trying to play bishop takes knight and rook takes pawn. And that's what the computer does. The computer is like, this is my best chance, which is insane. But there's a pawn hanging here. White gave it away. Black didn't take it. Black trying to trade the pieces. White is not trading the pieces. That is not what you do when you are playing odds. Rook c5. And suddenly you start seeing the early signs of like, uh-oh, could this possibly work out for the computer with white? Black has won all the other pawns, so all you got to do is move the knight. You just got to start pushing your own pawn. You both have pawns. You're obviously going to queen them. The king is safe. Push the h-pawn. I'm not sure I would have traded the rooks, but okay. Again, like, you got to probably play h4 here, but you got to start pushing something. You got to start pushing something. You have to start pushing your pawn. Okay. Knight d6 is a mistake. The move that the computer plays in this position is so ridiculous. It plays rook f7. To give up the rook completely, to deflect the knight from the b7 square. So after knight takes, b7, and if something like h3, b8, the crazy thing is black is still winning. Black is winning in this position. But can you imagine doing this against the computer, allowing it to make a queen, and maybe a second one, and just cold-blooded playing a move h2? What happens after rook f7 is black panics. I think black wanted to play rook f2 and defend the bishop, but black slips. Black plays rook g2, and that's, of course, resignation, because once you lose the bishop, the pawns will promote. Now, if black had played rook f2 here, maybe black would not have lost 5 games, but it was low time, and that's what happens. The next game, I can't, again, like every single one of these games, I can't believe that the computer found a way to not even win, to just defend the position, just stick around, you know, just like wait and wait and wait. Look at this position. So every previous game, the board opened up really quickly. Watch how in this game, the board locks, right? The board locks up, okay? In all the previous games, it was the engine surviving and, you know, slow, like making a mistake, whatever. What's this game? This game is so crazy. This game shows the astounding level difference between a human and a computer. Watch this. So b5. I mean, black has locked the position and has just a direct attack on the king. White doesn't have a queen, for God's sake. White, meanwhile, leaves these pieces here, okay? The attack comes in. You're trying to open up the position. White just ignores. White just says, I don't care. I'm going to attack your knight. When you come here, I'm going to play f6. Now here, you have to give up the material. You have to give this up. You cannot allow a computer to have a space advantage against you. It is one of their most, I mean, frankly, you might lose from here too. But in this game, the person playing with black went back and basically said, well, my king is safe. You know, maybe I'll sacrifice in the future if I have to. But for now, I'm going to wait. The problem with this approach is that if you try to play like this, it's going to be really, really tough. You have to sacrifice the material on f6. Watch. You know, there's some threats created over here. Again, this is a final. You have to give this up. You have to get breathing room for your pieces. If you do not, if you keep trying to defend yourself, watch what happens. Knight c5, right? Somehow, everything is defended in the position. Everything is completely defended. h4, the attack is still kind of brewing there. Rook f7. And now, it's going to start taking, and it's utilizing its space advantage to attack you with a very, very limited number of resources. It's still not too late to take, by the way. The best move, if takes, is actually to go takes, and takes on f6. It's still not too late to take, but they don't do it. Knight b5, still trying to attack. Meanwhile, pawn takes g6, pawn takes g6, king a1. The final moment, you have to take on f6. No, black still tries to attack. Black tries to ignore. Rook h6. Stockfish is giving this a dubious move. Rook c5. Rook c5, intending, look at this. Leela is giving up 2 knights for the rook. Look at this. It wants to go knight c5, queen c5, but that's not the point. The point is allow rook c5, and now e5, mummifying the position. This is the best practical move, because now you are threatening rook h1, rook h8, and rook h7 mate. if you play this position as a human with black, you probably think you're losing because you're going to play something like bishop g7 to try to sacrifice. I'm going to take. Suddenly rook h1. How do you defend against rook h7? You have to play queen g8. Suddenly I take the rook. I mean, this is just the beginning of the nightmare. Now, the winning move after e5 is rook c3. Utilizing this massive material advantage, and basically after queen c3, of course the game is over, but it doesn't matter if you don't take the rook, because if you don't take the rook, I play knight a3. Like, I'm still bulldozing. They miss it. They take on c2. Now rook h1, and watch what happens here. Rook h8, queen g8, trying to just trade down material. Now watch this position. A rook down. All right, a full rook down, but the computer plants the knight on f6. And watch as it just survives. It just survives. That's all it has to do. You can't take the knight because it's a fork. And the second that black got low on time, black blunders. You have to play rook b4. You're afraid of things like knight d6. You go here, you blunder a fork, and that's the end of the game. Now, okay, you can still play this position, but you will lose. It's equal, but you will lose because, again, you couldn't, Now, and this goes on and on. Like, this is, every game is different. H4 played, because computers love to play like this. It's playing a gambit. It's down a queen, but it is playing a gambit. It is trying to develop its pieces faster than the opponent to play moves like bishop c4. Can you imagine? It's a 10-point material advantage for black. How is it possibly going to be able to figure it out again? This is game 4, by the way. There's still one more. So black gambits back and tries to develop the pieces. White also develops. Black also develops, closing up the position, saying, you can take my bishop. Oops. Oops. You got your bishop trapped. Bishop g4. All right. Mikulas is like, hey, I'm still up a queen, Knight bd2. Knight bd7. The bishop has been lost, and now you are playing queen odds, except it's a queen for a bishop. I mean, you were not winning when it was just a queen, so you are probably not going to be winning when it's a queen for a bishop. But let's see how this position is going to develop. Like, I haven't seen the whole game, so if I'm looking at this position for white, I'm looking at stuff maybe down the e-file. I'm probably thinking that there are weak dark squares, and something could happen over there in the position. But honestly, I don't see much else. Like, black has a very, very good pawn structure. Black's going to play knight b6, take on d5, maybe try to take some central space. Okay, rook e1. Yeah, that's what I just said. Knight b6, and yeah, I mean, you don't really have much else. Like, you're down a bishop in this game, but everything that I've said so far comes true. How is white going to, again, this is going to be very much a position where black is going to have to play to lose. Black is going to have to play to lose, not white. Black can play queen b6, put the rooks in the center, play solid, and if black doesn't do anything, black won't lose. Probably not. Knight f4. But in all these games, black is trying to play for something, right? And when you play for something, you play to lose. You play to win, but you also play to lose. e5. Giving up a pawn with the idea to trade the rooks. You see what I mean? You play to win, you play to lose. Rook takes. Queen takes. Okay, but we lost the pawn. So for the transaction of trading the rooks, which is obviously good, we lost the pawn. That leaves Leela with just a rook on the board. Queen d8. Okay, it's still trying to instigate. Oh my gosh, it gave up a pawn near its king. What could the idea possibly be? Well, I'm going to tell you what the idea could possibly be. First of all, if you're wondering why the move g3 is not possible, black can play queen f6 and counterattack the knight while this knight is hanging. So the move knight e4 gets played here. Now, if I'm looking at this position, you know what I'm going to play with black probably? Queen d8. I just don't want my queen tangled up with the pieces. I don't want the queen tangled up. And then I'm going to bring, the rook to the party. So we get g3, knight h3 check. Now, if you take on h3, right? Take on h3. Yeah, you kind of, bishop, queen is hanging. And if this, you get your queen trapped. Every mistake is brutally punished. This is the result of a tilt, right? I mean, black was doing great. White had no chance to win, and the second you mess up, you are smacked. Now, there are games that Leela won, and there are games that the human, right, just lost. So this is the final game of the first 5 games of this little mini match. I was fascinated by the fact that the computer relentlessly opened the position despite being down a queen. Like, to me, it is unhinged to open the position like this. I mean, how can... But it's not any good. It's actually not any good to play like this, which is wild, you know? So what ended up happening was this, right? Black played e5, knight c3. And if I'm playing black, again, I'm just going to trade. I'm going to open the position. I'm not going to allow the computer to lock anything, right? Knight f3, bishop g4, all good. Pawn takes. You could take that, but knight h5 is played, bishop e3. And I think this was kind of like the final sign of the tilt because, you know, your queen's hanging. And probably what black saw here was, well, if I play queen e7, you know, he's going to go knight d5. And then if I play queen e6, there's knight c7. There's queen a2, though. You can't, you know, you can't play like that. And I think at this point, black was like, look, I'm just going to give up the queen for the rook. Now, so far, the queen has been traded in for a knight. The queen has been traded in for 2 knights. The queen has been traded in for a rook. So in every one of these games, you know, black has been up a queen, black has been up a rook, black has been up 2 pieces. Knight takes e5, and you have all the same pieces. 2 bishops, 2 knights, 1 rook. How on earth can the side with the less material and everything symmetrical beat you? If you don't blunder anything crazy. So the knight goes back to c6. How can white possibly win this position? White cannot move any of the pawns because they're both weak. White can't move any pieces. Black has a totally solid position. f5 is on the way. Get the king out of the way, right? c3. Okay, restricting move. a6. King c2. If I'm playing black, I want to go f5, but I don't want this check, so I play king h8. Okay, bishop e5 is totally fine. Disallowing the trade, right? Just an annoying move. f5 played. Rook g1 takes... Ooh, sneaky. Sneaky, sneaky move. Look at this move. Look at this move. Rook g1, what a trap. Right? This is why we needed to put the king in the corner, because this is a huge problem. This is an attack on the bishop and an attack on the knight. Now, if you have your wits about you here, you find the best move. That is not the best move. Right? The best move, right? The bishop was threatening the knight with the pin, so you have to go back to g7, at which point white might have played f5, and then you have to do what Leela would do, which is counter-sacrifice the rook on d3. You have to find these very timely, key defensive resources which appear kind of randomly throughout, okay? So, knight takes f4 is wrong, but this is still a winning endgame. Black has 2 extra pawns and a rook for a bishop, but I'm not confident. You know, this is a great move, knight d3, getting in the way of everything. White is not going to trade. White is not going to trade. Rook e5, knight e5. I mean, how can 2 bishops win this position? There is no way. Well, if you blunder a pawn, there might be a way. Knight g4, bishop goes to f4. I mean, oh no. No, no, no. And it's the worst possible moment to blunder, because not only have you blundered, here black has only 1 move to survive, because you're going to lose the rook. Black has to play the move b5. This is a ludicrous move, but you're trying to give up a pawn and save the rook. And if this, at least you don't allow the a pawn to move forward. If king b3, there is e3 forcing the king back. And if you don't play that move b5, look what happens. a4. And the thing is, I take the rook now, but it's even worse because I sneak a pawn through on the outskirts of the board and you simply cannot defend it. And this is game over. Absolutely unbelievable mini match. Now, this was just 5 games. Credit to Mikolas, who kept battling and lost the 6th game, but ended up, like I said, ended up winning, I think, 12 times ultimately, losing 20 along the way. Still close, you know, and if you want me to play against the bot, I can do it. It's all these like Leelas and whatever are generally hosted on Chess, and so I will play against it if you guys want. Just let me know in the comments. I'm slightly terrified of getting embarrassed. Something even crazier is that Fabiano Caruana lost a match with knight odds. Now, queen odds, I think Fabiano would be just fine, but Fabiano Caruana is a top 3 player in the world. Mikolas is an older grandmaster. I mean, 50 and 30 and top 3 in the world is very, very different. But it's still unbelievable. It just shows like the level difference, and it's quite staggering. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, we're cooked, but at least we're all in this together. And chess is pretty AI proof. So that's all I have for you today. Get out of here.